I had always loved my wife. Sarah, 10 years of marriage, countless memories, shared dreams. But something had shifted over the past year. A quiet distance grew between us. Small signs at first. Missed dinners, curt replies, secretive phone calls. At first, I ignored it, hoping it was stress from work. But intuition, that quiet voice I had learned to trust, told me otherwise. Something was wrong. One evening, I noticed her lingering on the phone, speaking in hushed tones with someone I didn't recognize. My stomach twisted with suspicion, but I didn't confront her. I watched. I observed. A week later, a close friend tipped me off. Sarah had been speaking to a lawyer. Not just casually. She was planning divorce. She was planning to take everything. The house, the savings, the life we had built together. Panic rose, but I kept my composure. I had to act carefully. Over the next few days, I quietly moved my assets. Bank accounts, investments, valuables. Everything was shifted into safe, protected places. No one knew. Not my colleagues. Not even my family. Just me and the plan. It was meticulous, precise, deliberate. Every move calculated to protect what I had earned. Sarah didn't notice. She continued her usual routine, oblivious of the fact that her plans were already being undermined. She was confident, smug even, thinking I had no idea. Every conversation was laced with her subtle manipulations, her casual boasts about independence, and how she would handle everything herself. 2 weeks later, everything changed. I returned home from work one afternoon to find Sarah sitting in the living room, papers spread across the coffee table. Her face was pale, her usual confidence replaced by shock and confusion. She looked at me, her eyes wide, and said the words I had been expecting, yet still relished watching her realization. How did you do this? I sat calmly, leaning back in my chair, letting her panic fill the room. It's simple, Sarah, I said. I knew, and I prepared. The tension was unbearable. The woman who had once tried to control the narrative, to manipulate every outcome, now sat defeated. The divorce she had been planning with precision had already been rendered ineffective. My assets were secure, untouchable, and untangled from her grasp. For a moment, silence filled the room. She tried to speak, tried to regain control, but every word faltered under the weight of reality. The smug, calculating woman I had married was now just a woman faced with the consequences of underestimating me. In the days that followed, the tension between us was palpable. Sarah moved around the house with caution, careful not to upset the delicate balance she hadn't realized I had already created. Every attempt at negotiation or threat she made fell flat, because her assumptions no longer held any power. I watched quietly, observing her frustration grow. The woman who had once wielded confidence like a weapon was now forced to reckon with reality. Her plans, her expectations, her manipulations, all undone by foresight and careful preparation. One evening, she confronted me directly. Her voice trembled, a mix of anger and disbelief. Why didn't you tell me you knew? Why didn't you stop me sooner? I looked her in the eyes calmly. Because, Sarah, this isn't about stopping you. It's about protecting myself and what we built. You want to control the outcome. I simply made sure the outcome didn't control me. Her hand shook as she gestured wildly, trying to find leverage where there was none. You can't just... I already did. I interrupted softly, letting the weight of those words hang in the air. She realized then that every move she had been planning for weeks was neutralized. I hadn't retaliated. I hadn't revealed my strategy. I had simply acted quietly, strategically, and effectively. The next few days were a study in patience. I didn't gloat. I didn't mock. I let her come to terms with her mistakes. Each time she attempted to manipulate or sway me, I responded with calm clarity. The house, the savings, the assets, everything she had tried to claim now stood beyond her reach. By the second week, Sarah began to understand the true extent of what had happened. Her divorce plan, carefully orchestrated, had been dismantled without drama or confrontation. The power she thought she held was gone, and she knew it. Through it all, I realized something important. The situation could have driven me to anger or revenge, but that wouldn't have served me. True power wasn't in retaliation. It was in preparation, control, and patience. By moving my assets quietly, without confrontation, I had ensured not just my security, but also my emotional advantage. And as I watched Sarah navigate the consequences of her actions, I felt an unexpected clarity. I wasn't just defending my possessions. I was defending my dignity, my intelligence, and the life I had built. Her confidence was shattered, her assumptions undone, and all because I chose foresight over impulsive reaction. The final confrontation came quietly, without fanfare. Sarah approached me one evening, her eyes filled with a mixture of fear, regret, and something like awe. She no longer had the smug confidence that had fueled her planning. She realized, finally, that her actions had consequences far beyond what she had anticipated. I didn't think you'd see it coming," she admitted softly, almost whispering, her voice fragile. "I thought I had time. I thought I had control." I nodded slowly, letting her words settle between us. "You assumed," I said calm but firm, "that I would be passive, that I wouldn't anticipate, that I would allow you to dismantle what I built. But I did see it coming, Sarah, and I acted." The room was heavy with silence. She tried to speak again, but the words caught in her throat. She had underestimated me, underestimated my foresight, and now she faced the consequences. Her divorce plan, designed with precision and guided by her own ambition, had been neutralized, not by luck, not by coincidence, but by careful, deliberate action. Over the next few weeks, the atmosphere shifted. I didn't gloat, I didn't taunt. I simply went about my life, calmly, confidently, and securely. Sarah learned through observation that her attempts at manipulation no longer worked. Every time she tried to assert control, I responded with measured calm, and she realized she had lost the leverage she once held. One afternoon, she finally came to me, her voice quiet, almost pleading. I miscalculated. I didn't think you'd protect everything so thoroughly. I was wrong." I looked at her, seeing the weight of her regret, the understanding of what she had lost. "It's not about being right or wrong," I said. "It's about responsibility. You made choices. I made mine. And now we live with the consequences." Sarah's face fell, her arrogance replaced by humility. She understood, finally, that life isn't about scheming or manipulation. It's about awareness, foresight, and resilience. She had been the architect of her own downfall, and I had simply ensured that I remained secure, strong, and untouchable. Months later, as the dust settled, I realized something profound. The power to protect oneself doesn't come from anger or revenge. It comes from preparation, patience, and clear thinking. I had safeguarded my assets, my future, and my dignity. And in doing so, I had transformed the betrayal, the threat, and the fear into a lesson. The one who anticipates, plans, and remains calm always holds the true power. As I walked to the house that had once been the stage for tension and uncertainty, I understood fully. Life had changed. She had changed. But I had grown stronger, wiser, and unshakable. And that, more than anything, was the victory I had earned.